Welcome to episode 291 of In Touch with iOS, the show that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies. I am your host, Dave Ginsburg, and it's been like forever. I have my friend here, Bob Fairbairn, the audio consultant extraordinaire. How you doing, Bob? Great for having you back.
Other than a little scratch in my throat, I'm doing great, Dave. And I'm assuming you are too, because here you are still. You've never left this office.
Here. I never did. I looked back and I want to see when the last time was Bob on the show. It's been 4 years. 2020, you were on the show with me. And that was during our time when we were volunteering our time at the local Mac user group, Mug. And so, but it's great to have you on the show. We're going to really enjoy a great conversation. Also great being here is Ben Roethig. So great to have you. How are you doing, Ben?
I'm doing good, Dave. It's always a pleasure to be on the show.
Yes, always a pleasure having you. And last but certainly not least, Jeff Gamet. It's always great to have you. How are you doing, Jeff?
It's always great to have Ben on the show. I mean, it's great to be here. Actually, it is great to have Ben on the show. And Bob, It's great to meet you.
Yes, and we're going to have a great time here because I'm telling you, the news just keeps continuing with Apple. We just have more and more of it every week. Ironically, they just did their earnings call earlier today, so we'll touch upon that and lots of other great topics and news stories. So why don't we just go ahead and jump right into for this week? And like we always do, go into topics. And first thing I'm going to talk about is beta. iOS 17.4, beta 1 was re-upped. It was re-released, a dev beta. They released it for iOS 17.4, iPadOS 17.4. And the public beta is now out as well. The biggest thing is the EU support, which we were talking a lot about, that's included in this. The default browser changes in EU as well as NFC. I think a lot of what's in here is going to be the EU that they had to comply with. And it's, other than that, just bug fixes, I think, which probably we're looking at. Ben, have you noticed anything different with this latest beta?
Not with iOS. The only thing I really notice is that I can now share play my iOS to my Apple TV.
Oh, so it finally works, huh?
Yeah.
Great. So, and we lost Bob. He'll be right back. But Jeff, anything with your iPad? You've been avoiding doing that iPad.
Yeah. Well, I've installed the update, and my iPad booted back up afterwards. And that's as far as I've gone with it. So I am going to say 17.4 beta 1 is performing marginally, which is exactly what I expect. There we go.
Yeah. Yep. How about you, Bob? Have you been dabbling in beta? I know
I used to a lot, but lately I've been in production mode. So I have done very, very little beta stuff. Although I have a couple of things where I think I'm going to have to dip in a little bit here in a little while. We'll see. I was very, very tempted with the device protection stuff. That
we got it now.
And I have to write all my customers. I have a bunch of them. I says, okay, this is what you do. This is what you need to do, because it really does make a difference. So, and I kind of wanted it to settle out a little bit to make sure something didn't go in the middle of the night, but it didn't, as far as I can tell. So that's good.
Yeah, it looks like it's been doing okay with that stuff. Mm-hmm. It looks like also that they released Watch OS 10.4 out to developers. Generally, don't see too much about that. One interesting thing that was found, Apple Insider is reporting on this, is there's some references to Home OS and TV OS 17.4 beta. In TV OS 17.4 beta, there was some code that's referencing the first in that first developer beta of TV OS 17.4 that is Home OS. Could it be an indication that Apple's working on a new OS, or is it going to be maybe a Home Hub? If you saw this, Jeff, what do you think on this? You being the aficionado of
You're far too generous.
The home kit, as we call it right now.
Okay, so the Home OS thing, having it show up in code doesn't surprise me at all, because several months ago there were job postings that Apple had for engineers to work on Home OS, and when people were like, "Oh, Apple's doing Home OS," they pulled the job listings, which just tells me that they set them up, the job listings up in a different way where it was totally obfuscated. But my guess is that what Apple is doing is working on a more specialized version of iOS that encompasses their smart home controller devices.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
That's it.
It related to that. I saw some rumors in the Home Assistant YouTube channels and stuff like that about HomeKit routers. Everybody's not doing them anymore, abandoning them or something like that. Has anybody else seen anything along that route? Home where you're like the one I'm running is a Linksys right now and it's acting up as usual. But you can connect your router to HomeKit. Like some of that may be going away. I don't know. I haven't seen anything.
I think that's all going to go away. And
I think so. Yeah.
It's just a matter of how quickly that happens because Apple is supporting Matter. Yeah. And that's eliminating the need for a lot of these bridge devices that we've been relying on.
Yeah.
So many bridge devices.
What do you think, Ben?
I'm hoping it is a drastically upgraded version of what we have on like the HomePods or whatever other devices in that area that Apple's working on, and it finally gets its own freaking app.
Yeah, it's overdue. Just like HomePod. Is there going to be a HomePod OS?
I mean, there already is a
Doubtful,
HomePod OS. I'm hoping that it's shortening the name.
Yeah. So for sure. So definitely going to be interesting to see where that goes. We talked about Apple did announce that there's going to be a new podcast transcript feature in iOS 17.4. It was just released last week as we talked about it. Haven't had a chance to try it yet. Have any of you guys tried it out yet? I know, Ben, you brought it to my attention last week. I haven't seen it in action just yet. I linked to an article in Mac Rumors. Seems like they've had some activity with it.
I haven't used it myself yet, but from what I saw, it looked pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how that pans out with transcripts. Boy, it's going to save us podcasters a heck of a lot of time
and money
having to do that ourselves. And I'm using other tools.
No, it doesn't.
But maybe not. Go ahead.
It doesn't save you any time because this doesn't address transcripts outside of Apple's podcast aggregator ecosystem. So you're still going to have to do the whole transcript.
You want it everywhere else.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You got to do it.
Yeah. It would be nice if in a future operating system, Apple allowed you to download that transcript.
Yeah, I would hope that that's something they would consider. So it definitely is going to be interesting to see where that goes. And Apple is also in 17.4 beta they're actually doing an update to the clock app, which I found to be surprising. Specifically, it updates a small but significant change to the stopwatch function. In the beta, the stopwatch function now includes a timer in the live activities in the dynamic island. So now in the lock screen, you'll be able to actually see that stopwatch going as like a little small timer. So I know that's nothing a big deal of many of us here, but I thought that is kind of a nice of a standout as well. So there's a couple things in 17.4 that's going to be released here. So I think this will be interesting. We'll touch upon the EU stuff a little bit more later on here. But this is definitely something interesting. So with that, we'll move on off beta and talk about the Apple earnings results. Well, like I said, they just released the quarter results about 3 or 4 hours ago since as we recorded this. And Apple did post a quarterly revenue of about $119.6 billion. That was up to about 2% year over year. And quarterly earnings per diluted share was about $2.18, up 18% year over year. And we got lots of links in the show notes, including the press release from Apple, as well as Tim Cook spoke on a lot of the things during the earnings call. A lot of the takeaways include, of course, they did touch on the EU app ecosystem changes. And They were asked about the economic, there could be some possible economic results from the changes, and I didn't think they said too much. He said the impact is impossible to determine right now. Is what Tim said. Apple finds it difficult to predict what customers and developers will choose. They're really focused on privacy and security and usability. Cook had said, and we've tried our best to get as close to the past in terms of things that people love about our ecosystem, but we're going to fall short of providing the maximum amount that we could supply because we need to comply with the regulation. So, like we said, we've been saying the last few weeks, they had to comply. There wasn't much of a choice. Of course, they talked about the Vision Pro. Very excited about that, and about the design. A lot of other app developers are going to be doing apps for Vision Pro, including Walmart, Nike, Vanguard, Stryker, Bloomberg, SAP, and all kinds of other collaborators. I think they said something like 600 apps are going to be out when released. As we record this, it's going to be in everybody's hands tomorrow on February 2nd, and we'll talk about Vision Pro in just a minute here. Other interesting app that Tim Cook talked about was AI. He said he did say, he's quoted as saying, as Apple is spending a tremendous amount of time and effort on artificial intelligence, and that details on the AI work will be shared later this year. So what does that mean, later this year?
WWDC.
WWDC, I think, is going to be probably an incredible event this year with a lot of big announcements with AI, because AI is just absolute gangbusters. The services category had set another all-time record revenue of $23.1 billion. It was up from $20.7 billion the year ago quarter. Paid subscriptions grew double digits year over year. I think all of us here, if not most of us, are spending a lot on that Apple bundle every month. So it's not surprising that we see the services going here. And then there's the wearables, Mac and iPad sales, and active devices. Mac sales are about flat, about 7.8 billion compared to 7.7 billion last year. But iPad sales, no surprise here, are way down, as Apple hasn't released a new model in all of 2023, and now we're in 2024. Revenue was about 7 billion. It was down from 9.4 billion last year. Wearables saw a bit of a drop as well. Went to 12 billion over 13.4 billion. So it was definitely interesting to see where all these numbers went. But you know what? You're looking at these numbers. They're not an incredible drop, but people on the market and the analysts and all that are going to probably say otherwise. I'm going to start with you, Bob. What do you think of what these results were?
Well, I'm disappointed because I have an M1 12.9 MacBook, or not MacBook, iPad. And I've been wanting a new iPad for a long time, and I've been waiting, and I've been waiting, and I've been waiting. And I don't know, I get a little worried about all the services money. If you sign in to Apple News regularly, you can't scroll 3 lines without an advertisement for something else, unless you do what I do to block them. But it's really getting a little annoying to a certain extent. And there's a few places where they're doing that. So I think they need to wind that back a little bit. You know what I mean? But I like to see their revenue continuing to grow. And I was hoping the Mac would be up more than it is. I really was hoping the Mac, because those new MacBook Airs are just absolutely phenomenal. So I want one.
Yeah. Yeah. The 15 inch is beautiful. Yeah. It's a really nice machine. So is the third. I mean, I have a 13-inch M2. I was one of the first M2s, and it's a great little machine. I use it as my extra laptop to travel with. Got my 16-inch I use here at the desk, and that little MacBook Air is it's quite a power horse.
I'm talking to you on an M1 MacBook Air. Solid piece of hardware. Yep. So I'm due for new toys.
Yep. What do you think, Jeff? What stood out for you on this all this announcement?
What stood out to me, well, actually, the services, that going up, to me, is actually a good sign, because Apple has been working for quite a while now to make sure that they have a more diversified product lineup, so that they don't have all their eggs in the iPhone basket. And Tim Cook has said over and over, Apple is looking out way into the future beyond the iPhone. And they're building the foundation for that now. So services needs to continue to grow. And whether or not the ads that are showing up in news are playing into that, well, good for you for blocking them if they're bugging you. I actually don't use Apple News at all. So there's that. Then the Mac sales being flat to me was actually a positive. And I think that without the new MacBook Airs and the new MacBook Pro that were introduced this year, Mac sales would have taken a big drop. So that's what kept us where Mac sales were about the same. And what I'm hoping with no iPads in 2023 is that that's happening because we're getting very significant changes to the iPad line in 2024.
Yep. How about you, Ben?
I have thoughts pretty much along the lines of Jeff here. I mean, look, by the time we see new iPad, it's going to be close to 18 months. So everybody knows they're coming. There's really no reason to buy an iPad unless you have an urgent need. With the Mac, like Jeff said, the fact that they stayed even on Pro Mac is pretty impressive, considering we know that the MacBook Airs are going to get updated with those iPads, and they make up the vast majority of Mac sales. Wearables, yeah, Apple Watch Series 9 and Ultra 2 really aren't all that different from their predecessors. Yeah, it's just, I mean, other than the iPhone 15 series going gangbusters, there's really not a whole reason to upgrade right now. And and I mean, with everything being so mature these days, that's probably one of the reasons why Apple is putting so much effort into services. They need something that can be reliable quarter to quarter.
Yep.
So, and then a couple other things that were kind of interesting. Tim Cook did say that there are over 2.2 billion active devices, which is a new record for Apple, and it's in their install base. That's all Apple devices that are out there. That came out to another article I read was 1 in 4 people on the planet have an Apple device. So that's a pretty incredible feat, if you ask me.
That's pretty amazing.
It's amazing, but I'm wondering if this is that kind of funny number math that Amazon is known for, where they show a bar chart with no numbers on it.
Okay.
Did Apple specify what they mean by devices? Does that include Apple Pencils, Magic Trackpads?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's true.
Yeah, I mean, looking into that, I have a MacBook Pro, an iPhone 12, an Apple Watch Series 7, and 5 Apple TVs over all 4 generations.
Yeah. I think we're all in that same boat.
Yeah.
We all
3 or
need
4
an
Macs
intervention is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Me too.
Yeah.
3 or 4 Macs and 2 iPhones, 2 iPads.
8 different people there. That skews.
It just proves that you count
8 times as much as everybody else.
Yeah. So overall, some really good results. We'll see how the stock market reacts. Actually, I think the stock was up a little bit today after the announcement, so that was good to see. So, and we'll see where it goes. So, we had to talk about the Vision Pro because we are going to be talking about the Vision Pro today on this episode. And I'm happy to announce that we are going to have a really special guest next week, Dylan Stewart, the Mac Whisperer, who actually is receiving a new Vision Pro, and we'll be able to hear from somebody firsthand who will have it in their hands and be able to talk about it to leave even more. But I found it interesting. All, of course, the usual suspects of the influencers had their Vision Pro devices. Started off with Joanna Stern in the Wall Street Journal. She did a really awesome video, about 7 minutes long, that depicted She could cook. I thought she was absolutely crazy getting out of ski slopes and going down the bunny hill. You're wearing that thing. As Apple warns you should not be wearing this thing and doing any sports.
I haven't watched the video yet. Where was she skiing?
Where was it? I don't remember. It was a bunny hill though. It wasn't like it was
because if it's Eastern US, then and she's on a bunny hill, it's okay. She didn't violate what Apple said because that's not really skiing.
You should know, being from Colorado. So, and of course, Justine, you know how crazy she'll get with this stuff, and I think she had that. I remember they showed the video of the Jurassic Park dinosaur jumping at her and putting out your hands and having to do the image of your face, putting the thing in front of you, and so there was. I thought a lot stood out with a number of these videos, and first time I've ever seen Marcus Brownlee, MKBHD, do an actual unboxing in a long time. He actually unboxed it, and of course, always unboxes. So I think we had a lot of good stuff, and the biggest thing that was standing out was battery life. I'm gonna get about 2.5 hours. That ain't much. You're gonna have that battery on your hip all the time, right? And have to recharge it.
Yeah, but a lot of them were saying they were getting longer battery life than Apple was advertising.
Okay.
So we'll see how long the batteries continue to perform that way. But I mean, that's promising.
Yeah,
it is. The Mac virtual display I thought was really cool, and I think that's something that people are probably going to want to do with it, having these enormously large screens, virtual screens in their Vision Pro. But I don't think they're going to want to be typing that little keyboard that's out in the virtual world. So,
you say that.
What do you think?
But I think that there is a significant part of the demographic where that's actually a really great feature. There are a lot of people that have limited mobility and other limitations that don't allow them to easily use a traditional physical keyboard. And while we're thinking, I don't want to have to do this little pinch, peck thing, for them, this is going to be life-changing.
Yeah, it could be because we're doing them on iPhones. The keyboard's the same size, honestly. So why wouldn't it be any different? But if you're using a Mac, if you're doing your Mac and trying to do stuff, I mean, the good thing is the Magic Keyboard and the Magic Trackpad and mouse both work with the Vision Pro. So,
and you can actually
going virtually with your hands, and
you can pair basically any Bluetooth keyboard,
any Bluetooth,
right?
Right. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. So I find this gonna be it's an interesting device, but as we've been talking about the last few weeks, we're at version 1.0, folks. I mean, it's very expensive. $3,500 just to start, and you adding all the other accessories brings you all the way up to about $4,000 with if you need the glasses inserts, of course, and you need that case. Oh my God, you saw that case? It looks like a big giant bubble. Big white giant bubble.
Get the third party one that's half as much.
Yeah.
It's like a marshmallow.
Yeah, big marshmallow. Yeah, that's it. So, this something you would ever consider, Bob? If you would, I know you love these kind of gadgets, but
so I have several specific use cases that I think it might fit in well. So I do a lot of tech support sitting here in front of a 49-inch monitor, and to be able to toss a couple of remote computers up and spin around and touch them and move them and link up to the computer here, I just have this feeling that there's a good possibility it might fit well. But we're remodeling the kitchen this year.
I say you got some priorities financially.
I really needed to update the iPad. That's the one thing I really want to do. So I'm doing that. My wife needs a new watch, and so it's sort of like 1.5 or something like that. Let's wait and see what happens as the software gets updated and all that.
Yeah,
but that's a very specific use case that I think would fit for someone who's in my work field. And I just have the feeling that there's some productivity gains that could be done with this pretty nicely. I was watching Marquez doing where he's got it, hooks it up to the Mac and all that. And I'm going, yeah, I can really see that. I can really see how that would drop your Mac over here and the couple of FaceTime calls and things I saw with that, even though there's a little bit of uncanny valley going on, man, the fact that the audio comes from, and you look over and you're talking to Joe, and you look over and you're talking to Mary, and this flat thing in front of us, that's going to go away soon, guys. Won't that be cool? I love it. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah. So definitely going to be interesting to see where this goes, and we'll find out more next week with someone have hands on with it. I'm excited to hear what Dylan's thoughts are going to be next week. So definitely going to be interesting. So let's go on, move on to another topic here. Jeff, you brought this to my attention and really intrigued me on this. And I know you and I both love the company Icon Factory. They made Twitterific. When Twitter really meant something. We don't. Now it's X. We don't even deal with it anymore for most part. So Icon Factory came back and they've been still creating all their great apps. But this really intrigued me, the Project Tapestry. And basically what they're trying to do is, instead of just having one client that was Twitterific, now they're going to try to actually defragment the online media with this Project Tapestry, excuse me. And so like I said, I went into the Kickstarter just like you did, Jeff, and that you inspired me to do that. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what caught your attention to this and what made you support this Kickstarter?
Well, the initial hook for me was the Icon Factory team saying, "Hey, we have this new app we're working on," and right there, I'm basically hooked. Now I just need to know what the app is and what it does. And when I saw what they're working on, then I was really hooked because, it, like you said, it takes your RSS feed. It takes social media that has APIs that allow for other apps to hook in, and and so which also means you can hook in podcasts and all of the stuff that you want aggregated into one place, so you have like a nexus for your content. This is how I've been using Flipboard for years, and it's fine, but it's also not exactly what I want, because Flipboard is also guessing at things that I will be interested in. And over the past year, especially, the quality of content, which is not a reflection on Flipboard, it's a reflection on publications, has really just declined as companies have started to rely more and more on LLM for auto-generated content. But that's not really the point. The point is the stuff that I am interested in having aggregated into a single view for me to go through. That's what Icon Factory is doing with Project Tapestry.
Yep. So they're looking to get the goal about $100,000. I think they're becoming pretty gosh darn close already, and I supported it. Ben, is this something you would be interested in if you wanted to?
Yeah, it's something I'd definitely be very interested in. As it says here in the Kickstarter, it's not meant to be your main social media app or RSS reader, but kind of like a super notifications app.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Where you can know to look at your Feedly account or your Mastodon account, or hopefully someday your Threads account.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, because I use a news aggregator to compile all the news that I go through each week for the show. So I think this is going to be a great tool for people who really want to get immersed in this. Something you might consider, Bob?
I have to see a little further. The only social media content I've got, I have an account on Mastodon, but in my RSS reader is, I use Feedbin for most of it, and that works pretty well. But there's just so many places where you got to go, and so many different devices you got to go to. Anything that brings that down to a single inbox is fascinating. I didn't see this until the show notes, so I haven't actually looked at it yet. Icon Factory, they're good people. They write good software. So this could be cool. This could be really, really helpful. There's too many inboxes. I mean, how do I get them down? And where do I reach in touch and look and go, oh, I need to go pay attention to that, right? And how can I do that quickly in and out? So on any device, but again, they're not targeted towards all the crazy gear I carry around. So
right. Well, links in the show notes. Go check them out, and we at least Jeff and I can attest to the fact that we are doing a Kickstarter support of this initiative. So
I dropped money on this one fast and hard,
and I followed right behind you. So it's just great stuff here. Another story that Jeff brought to my attention, I thought was good. A good topic here is I think Bob, you're the one that brought this to us here. Android phones on AT&T will now show brand logos on incoming calls. Is this something for the future? AT&T is launching a new feature for its customers, which show brand logos when you get an incoming call from a verified business. In partnership with TransUnion, AT&T will start allowing business logos on incoming calls. So the goal is to show the logo as an indicator that it's an incoming call, that it is genuine, and logos only show up when verified business phone numbers. It's powered by TransUnion's True Contact. And True Contact goes and explains that both these industry firsts serve for branded call displays thanks to True Contact and all of their mumbo jumbo sales.
But T-Mobile's doing it also. Okay, because I got a thing from T-Mobile, but I want to think about it. So there's this verified domains and verified email that you could do with Apple. So you get an email from pick your most favorite company in the whole wide world, and it's part of the like DKIM and all that. So maybe this isn't all advertising. Maybe it's actually a good idea, and maybe it's something for the bad guys to spoof when they find the holes in the software. But I don't want to be negative about it yet, but I really don't need someone else flashing stuff in my face. I agree.
That was what really alarmed me when you shared this with us. Ben, you got any thoughts on this?
Yeah. These companies do not exactly have the best track record of having the customer's needs at heart.
No, they don't.
My fear is if they get away with this, you could see some other advertising in your calls.
This is true. You could. So something look forward to or not. Huh. I think this is going to be interesting to see where this goes, because
there's nothing altruistic about this at all. No, I'm sorry, Bob. I think I'm much more cynical about this than you are. Instead of addressing the spam and spoof phone call problems that we have, they chose to sell advertising instead and present it to us as if this is a way to let us know calls are legit. Now, to a degree, sure it is, but this is another service that businesses have to sign up for. And the real purpose behind what I forgot the company's name.
TransUnion, who you can't trust.
Right. Yeah. So
credit reporting.
So their whole thing with this product is not about verifying that your phone number is legit. That's just one of the things that it does. The product that they went to sell you is all about all of this other data management stuff. And so if you're a business that's thinking, oh, this will be a great way for me to let my customers know that when I'm calling them, it's a legit call. No, because that's not what TransUnion is going to be selling you.
It's a little bit like some of the crazy stuff that the Better Business Bureau does. You pay the Better Business Bureau to be on their listings and stuff. And I don't know enough to speak very heavily about it, but I just have my conspiracy theories and suspicions about some of that.
Yep. Yay, capitalism.
Next topic, I want to talk a little bit about some of the more fine-tuned information about the EU App Store changes. Again, this isn't going to affect us in the United States, so I mean that's the thing. I just find this to be fascinating to see what they're going to be doing. I'm not going to go through all this. We've got some articles here in the show notes that you can look through here. Some of the notable changes was specifically like through all of the OSs. Apple's new business terms have changed, where you're going to have a core technology fee. We talked about all this here. Default app marketplaces. I think really some of the things that really stood out to me is test flight, which is of course the beta area where developers can test their apps before they release them out to the public. Apple is going to allow test flight to be used for alternate app stores, which I think that's I commend them for doing that, because I know they've not been too excited about it, but they got to be in compliance with this act. And then NFC was going to be another thing. The European economic areas just allow some changes there, which includes a lot of other different countries in the EU. So that's going to be different. So I don't know if anything else stood out for you guys. Bob, I don't know how much you've looked through this EU.
I've been kind of reading about it, and I understand why Apple is so adamant about this. And all you have to do is point back to where we were looking at the quarterly earnings and the services revenue and all that. And, they are a corporation too. We just happen to like their stuff. But I also look at it okay, I'm going to make an analogy here, and you guys are probably going to burn me to the ground with this. So a Windows computer versus a Chromebook. Okay. So when you think about that a little bit. So Windows computer, you got all these weird updates and all these apps that come from all these different places. And a Chromebook is pretty hard to break, and you can push a button and reset it and take it back to factory. And it's so, there's a little bit of a trade-off there. And I think that this starts pointing in that direction, is that, do I really need some gaming company, use their app store? I don't understand. Why can't we all just get together? All right. And why does, okay, I'm going to go off I don't want to go off on a rant. I just think we had it pretty simple. I think Apple screwed it up. Okay. I think they've been screwing it up for a long time. I think they have not paid as much attention to the developers as they needed to. And I think they have a little bit, I think their horse is taller than their legs. And I think they need to, climb down off the horse a little bit. I think that's my feeling.
Yeah. Anything else you want to touch on? We've been beating this to death the last couple episodes here. So, I mean, it is what it is, but go ahead, Ben.
Apple is not a charity. Apple is not your friend. Apple is a corporation. Their job is to make money. And who are we to say how much money they should or shouldn't make, and at what point they should be giving away services for free? I don't get to see their balance sheet. I don't get to see what their expenses are. Maybe charging 50 cents per install is necessary to maintain the services that they're offering to allow people to hook in to the iPhone. I don't know. I don't see the money. It's easy to say, oh, they can afford it, but at the same time, they have a responsibility to their shareholders. They're giving away for free. That's not what the capitalist corporate business model is.
No.
So,
And going on that, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
I would not be surprised at all if by March 6th, these terms changed, because it would be honestly negligent on Apple's part to its shareholders if it did not try to find out exactly where the EU boundaries were on this. So these might be maybe slightly out of compliance. But I mean, if they get away with it, Apple loses nothing. If EU says, whoa, you have to change this, and this, Apple gets to take the high ground. Like, hey, they managed to change it more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And grenades and horseshoes.
There you go. That's right.
There you go.
Yep.
So yeah, let's go ahead and move on from this topic. I think it's like I said, we've been beating it to death the last couple of weeks. It is what it is. It's coming in March, and the EU gets to experience a little different than what we will here in the US here. So So let's go into some of the news stories that caught my eye this week, and another rumor story here this week. I thought Jeff would like this one. Apple's touchscreen HomePod is coming this year, and what do they know so far? And they've been talking about this for a while here. Apple's believed to be working on a new full-sized HomePod with features a touchscreen display for the very first time. Display is rumored to be launched as soon as the first half of this year, 2024. Really, they've been talking about, and this is actually from Mark Gurman of Bloomberg, so you kind of have a good trustworthy source here. Design and functionality, they say this specific reports are saying that it's going to launch with a HomePod models go to the display that came from the app. Ming-Chi Kuo was talking about it too. So they got some pictures showing the bezel and the screen and looking like the large HomePod there is. They're saying that there's going to be a potential for a new chip. So there's a lot of rumor in here. I think we've been talking about this for a while. I mean, as far as HomePod goes, is there going to be a screen? Apple, Google, they all have their smart devices and speakers. What do you think on this, Jeff?
All right, coming from Mark Gurman, that adds credibility to this. Now,
Ming-Chi Kuo.
Adding Ming-Chi Kuo into this takes credibility away.
Yeah.
So here's where I am on this. What value is a HomePod with a display bringing to customers? And what is Apple going to do that makes this better than what other companies are doing with smart screen speaker systems? Yeah. And the answer that I have today, part of it is I don't know, because the value that I see in the smart screen speaker systems today is actually fairly limited. However, what if Apple is actually working on a new HomePod with a touchscreen that is your whole Homebridge setup that's running Home OS, and now you can have this device where it serves that bridge purpose that HomePod and Apple TV serve, and gives you an alternate interface for controlling home devices. So this would be something that goes on the wall, or I guess you could set it on a desk. But this becomes the home information system and touchscreen for controlling your home.
Yeah. And I do have some thoughts about how it might work.
Oh, I want to hear these.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, personally, I don't think you'd really need much more than an e-ink display on those. But what are you going to want to do with this? Well, number one, you're going to want to be able to see what song is playing.
Mm-hmm.
Since it's a multiple person device now, you can't guarantee the person who's mainly connected to that iPod or HomePod, excuse me, their information is going to be on their iPhone and iPhone alone graphically right now.
Mm-hmm.
And for kind of how it would work, depending on how big it is, well, basically Apple Watch / iPhone widgets.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was thinking widgets, because this becomes your home information display. So you see the weather, you see the time, you see, if you want, like the family shared calendars, so you know when all of the after school activities are happening. Maybe there's a shared family task list, so everyone knows what their chores for the day are. Plus, then you get the what's playing and all of that stuff. I think an e-ink display would totally make sense, and Apple isn't going to do it because it's not pretty. So it's going to be a full color display.
Yep. Plus the other thing, both the S series and the current current HomePods has a fair bit of graphics power that's not being used.
Mm-hmm. Now the mock-ups that we're seeing, where it's the cylinder with the round display on the top, and that's where you're seeing all the information. This makes no sense to me at all.
Zero.
And That to me is not a legit mock-up of what Apple is planning. That's someone photoshopping the now playing thing from an iPhone onto a HomePod. And that is a worthless display. The display as it's used on a HomePod today is worthless as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's okay that it's worthless today because HomePod is not a visual device. It's an audio device.
Right.
Yeah. In fact, I think the reason that the top of the HomePods is the shape that it is, they initially tried putting a display on there. It just didn't work, and they dropped it from the device.
Yeah. So you get the little light indicator that tells you it's hearing you, and you get to see volume controls that no one ever touches.
It is just the right amount of feedback for the device as it's currently presented, I think. That's
yes, that's a great way to put it.
So, can I tell you what I want?
Yeah.
Is Apple's listening. So have any of you guys played with any of the Google Home devices, the Google Home displays? I don't know if anybody here has played with
I've got one right.
You got one right in front of you.
Here with me.
So you know how that works, Dave. Okay. So there's actually four of those in my house. There's one right over here. Somebody rings the doorbell. The camera is right there in front of me instantly like that. My wife talks to it. Her information is there. I talk to it. My information is there. Now, we do not use that infrastructure like we use the Apple infrastructure, the family calendar, all that stuff. But the most important part in our house of those gadgets is two things. First thing is kitchen timers, and the second thing is photo library. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. The photo library is so.
Look at the grandkids.
Yeah. The grandkids. That's exactly it. The grandkids, the family, the vacation pictures and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So literally, my iPhone takes every single photo I take and everything I take from my big cameras, and it, as soon as the iPhone sees it, goes, oh, new photo, and it goes, hey, Google Photos, here it is. So everything's over in Google. So all my pictures are in Google, all my pictures in Apple. I want to stop that. Please, Apple, let me get rid of Google in my house. And they haven't done it yet.
I think Apple would love for you to get rid of Google in your house. And I think you're talking about the sort of things that Apple sees that they can do to get you out of the Google ecosystem.
Yeah, and I'm going to add one more thing that they should do. They should just keep an eye on Home Assistant a little bit, because what Home Assistant does for me, automation-wise, is just absolutely fabulous. So we've got to get Matter working right. We've got to, the Matter and Thread stuff is still really badly broken on a whole bunch of devices. It's slow, it's new, I get that. But man, what I can do with Home Assistant and ESP Home devices is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I've got right here, here's a new one I'm testing. This is a new sensor. This is RF motion sensor, multiple distances. You can walk into the room, it'll turn that light on, it'll turn the next light on, all right in Home Assistant, automated. You never touch a light switch walking into the room. And when you leave the room, it turns them off. So that's what I want Apple to do.
All right. Yeah, we've got a bunch of other news stories I'd like to get to before we wrap up this week. The Apple did extend its modem licensing agreement with Qualcomm through March of 2027. Apple has extended that. It's extended that license agreement through March of 2027, as Qualcomm has said today in their earnings call. And Apple's existing agreement has now been extended. So we're it looks like Apple isn't ready yet as far as creating their own modem chip. Back in November 2023, Mark Gurman was saying that Apple's work on that had been postponed until at least 25 or 26. So it looks like Apple's going to be sticking with Qualcomm for the foreseeable future here. So I think it's not much else you could say about that other than
making radio chips isn't as easy as you might think.
No. No. And Qualcomm is some really smart people. And I sort of wish Apple wouldn't fight with people like this, and NVIDIA and all that. I wish they wouldn't fight. I wish we could all get along.
Just get along.
Yeah.
Everyone.
So need a big group hug. And then we keep seeing more improvements to the Apple Card and the Apple Savings account, even though we've had all this discussion that Goldman Sachs wants out and nothing's happened yet. It's all been, as far as we're concerned, it's been more or less a rumor, and there really hasn't any confirmation that Apple is looking to get away from them, other than we've had a lot of talk about it. But they just raised the savings account interest rate up again. It was at 4.25, then it went to 4.35, and now it's at 4.50. So now everybody's being let know now that all your money's now making 4.5 APY now on all of your savings. I mean, this is one of the best savings plans you can probably jump on. And there's a lot of other banks that are offering something similar to this, but this is great to see. I mean, I really enjoy using the Apple Card, and I think a lot of other people do. I think all of us here, or most of us here, use that, and I think it's a good deal here. So the other thing that was interesting is this was the Mac rumors that Apple Card users have earned more than $1 billion in daily cash last year. That's over, and it has over 12 million users in the United States. I know other countries are probably wishing they can get their hands on this card, and then Apple obviously is in no position to go into other countries at this point, obviously, from just what they've been doing here. So, but that's a pretty amazing number, in my opinion. What do you guys think on this? That's just a wow number.
That's a lot of use, and and that use is just in one country, really.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's really a great thing here. Definitely just going to be interesting, and that, as well as, let's go on and move on and talk a little about CarPlay. Honda had decided to launch wireless CarPlay retrofit option in select 2018 to 2022 cars. Honda announced the preliminary plans to add this retrofit for CarPlay for Honda Accord drivers. The company now shares more details by revealing that the software update will start at $112 and be available at any Honda dealer. But wow, $112, that's not a bad deal. They probably charge a lot more in a lot of companies here. So they said it's just basically a plus. As I say, it also says it's a plus dealer labor charge. But oh my God, it's be well worth it to not have to have a third-party wireless device like I have in my car to get CarPlay to work. It works okay for me. It has its moments. It doesn't connect, but
that's okay from the guy who's looking at replacement radios to take the whole radio out of my 2014 Camry and put in one of these Android-based things that hooks up right to the car and has all the bus stuff, so I can have CarPlay.
I'm with you. It's 2013 Prius, and I'm going to have to go with an aftermarket head to put CarPlay in my car.
And the reason I'm doing it is I have the Camry disease. The bottom third of the touchscreen doesn't work anymore, so you have to take the thing apart and put and get a new touchscreen, or not just the resistive touchpad. So I'm going to take the whole car apart, and I'm going to spend money and time on it. Why don't I replace the whole thing? And the fact that these gadgets, so replace the whole thing, and I'll get CarPlay and all that. That's the biggest car upgrade I could ever have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is surprising, but surprising in a very good way.
Yeah.
With a lot of modern vehicles, especially those made in the last 5 to 10 years, the old days of being able to put in just a standard double-din radio are largely gone, with very proprietary systems that are designed specifically for that vehicle. Yeah. In many cases, to get CarPlay, you basically have to just replace the vehicle for a newer one.
Yep.
Honda seems to realize, unlike GM, what kind of the usefulness that CarPlay and Android Auto, especially the wireless variety, give their customers.
Yeah, this is the same thing, though. This is what we were talking about with Apple earlier, is these guys see value in capturing data from our vehicles and us as we're moving down the road. And there's another personal thing that has gotten me, and it's our friend at Chamberlain, the garage door opener people, who took away features from their software, so I can't use it anymore. So I have a hacked garage controller now, so I can see when my garage door is opening and closing and not have them spy on me and all that kind of stuff. And again, thank you, ESP Home and Home Assistant and this little company that's making this nice little board that hooks up to my garage door opener.
Yep. And last story I wanted to touch upon, and before we get some of the apps that Bob has shared with us this week, Apple TV Plus viewers watched 17 billion minutes of Ted Lasso in 2023. Despite Apple TV's having the fewest subscribers of all main streamers, Ted Lasso was watched by far more than in 2023 than any other streaming show. Streaming ratings are usually harder to parse than ever because of the network, unlike network television, because they can watch any or all the episodes at any time. But that's, it said in 1 week during the month that they looked at, it was an impressive 795 million minutes of Ted Lasso was watched. And then by the end of the year, the Apple TV Plus comedy had led Nielsen's top 10 original shows. So come on, bring it back. We need a new season because everybody just loves it. So what do you think, Jeff?
I think that number would have been higher if I had actually finished watching season 3. I love Ted Lasso, but the dropping it once a week, it's amazing how many series I don't finish because something else starts and I don't go back and watch the new episodes. And anyhow, the real thing here, though, is that this is validation, I think, that Apple is on the right track with their entertainment services. Yep. They've hired the right people and have let them make the right decisions. And we are getting some real quality content on Apple TV Plus.
Absolutely. Can't agree with them more. Any other thoughts? But Ben or Bob, you want to add to that?
Oh, there's a 100% chance there's going to be a spinoff.
Yeah, some sort of spinoff, I bet. Yeah, for sure.
You
watched Ted Lasso? But did you watch it, Bob?
Some. I don't watch. I actually didn't hardly watch season 3. My wife did. I've just been so crazy that I haven't had a chance to get around to it. But it's still there to watch. It's not going away, at least for now.
No, it's not going to go anywhere.
It's not going to go anywhere for now. Not with those kind of numbers. Wow. What's fascinating to me is you look at the spectrum of content that they're producing, and you go, holy, they have covered a very broad variety of genre, whatever you want to call it, types of television, from science fiction, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And most of the quality of stuff, the morning show, for instance, it's another really good show. I mean, really good acting, it just all the way around, good stuff. And so putting the right money in the right people's hands and letting them go do their job. Thank you, please. Keep doing that. More and more and more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yep, for sure. All right. With the little amount of time we have left here, Bob, I want you to put some apps in here to talk about. And one of them was the Arc search. You were talking about that earlier.
Just started to play with that today. So I don't know anything about it yet, other than it's fascinating. I think somebody else had some comments about it. I really don't know enough about it yet. I've got to sign into it and play with it a little bit more. I've been using Arc for quite a while on the Mac as an alternative to Chrome. And it's an interesting, it's a little bit like when my customers have Chromebooks, they like them because everything's kind of contained. And so Arc does a better job of like containing things in the browser that are out there. I like the way it does that. I like the way it presents it. So it's a very interesting methodology. And then what Arc is doing with Arc Search to me is I need to find something, and I've got my phone in my pocket, and I tell it to find it, and it aggregates it all and gives me a presentation. And this is what I'm hoping it does. I don't know yet. I haven't had a chance to play with it yet. I have like 5 searches from work today that I got to go look up. Why does this turntable not have good grounding and some stuff like that? So I'm going to use that tool to see if it helps with that kind of work. So that's that's the first thing. So we can go around on that one, and we can talk about Kagi in a minute.
Yeah. Did you have you guys been able to look at this Arc Search? It just came out. It's on the iPhone.
Yeah, like 48 hours ago.
Yeah, I haven't played with Arc Search. I'm familiar with Arc Browser, and I started playing with that when it was
browser,
like first available in beta. And it's a really, really interesting way of organizing your browsing content.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
All right.
And then,
so we'll,
I think it's something worth looking at. You have to have an alternative web browser. Safari is just phenomenal, but I still think today you still need, there are times you have to have something like that. And so it gives you a Chrome-based browser. I don't know what targeting tracking they're trying to be pretty careful about that. And that's where Kagi, I think that's a correct pronunciation. So Kagi Search, I don't know if any of you guys are using that. I have switched over to that everywhere. It's not free. You have to pay for it. Its search results are better than DuckDuckGo. It's better than what Google calls search results now, I think. I've got it almost everywhere except for I had to change my password. So every browser that's running it, I have to put the new password in. Anyway, just kind of annoying. And then they came out with a new web browser called Orion, and that one is also interesting. So there's just, it just gives us some other tools to use to try and make our lives better. And that's why the thing from Project Tapestry is fascinating to me. I'm going to go look at that because what I'm trying to do is simplify. It's just way too much.
Did you have anything to add, Ben?
I played with Arch Search or Arc. I can't talk right now. Arc Search, excuse me, a little bit. I can see why it's going to be very useful.
Yep.
But for me, it's kind of a secondary tool, not a primary one.
Yeah, I agree.
Sure.
That was my initial first thought. And I can't quite understand why they want you to make it the default browser, but it's so easy to switch. Who cares?
Not only that, but they're very, very insistent on it.
Yes, they are. And I've already found a bug in it. So I didn't sign in because I didn't know what email address I'd used to sign into Arc. And so I'm fussing for it. Now I've got it running. I can't find where to sign in. So I'm going to have to force quit it, uninstall it or whatever and see what happens. It's just, it's a 1 point. We'll give them a 1 point.
I think all of us have talked about Orion the browser.
Oh, okay. You have. All right.
So, Jeff, I know you've had some experience with that. It's a really good browser. It's another choice, I guess.
Yeah.
Kagi, the search product. I mean, my problem with it is not that it's not a good search engine, because it is. I stopped using it and don't use Orion because I have philosophical problems with the political and humanitarian stances of the company founder. And, so that's a personal reason for not using their tools anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
I don't know anything about that, so I'd be interested in learning more about that offline.
Yeah.
And but if it wasn't for that, Kagi would be the search engine of choice for me.
Yeah. I mean, there's also the technical limitation, it not being a approved search engine by Apple.
Yeah, you have to do an add-in.
Yeah. Which isn't a big deal, but for the average person, that's a hurdle that they can't get over.
Yeah,
They're not going to do it. So great. Well, we've come to a close to another show here, and appreciate you listening and watching live here. Shout out to the folks in our YouTube channel and youtube.com/intouchwithios. And Brian and Brett was out there tonight. So thanks for being here, and thank you all you guys for being here. So let's go out and wrap things up for this week. That's a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address, which is feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Mastadon at intouchwithios at techhangout.social. Support the show by buying me a coffee at intouchwithios.com/coffee. We'd really appreciate it. You can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/intouchwithios. We have 2 tiers available to support the show. We would really appreciate it. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe like Brian and Brett did in our YouTube channel, and we'll notify you when we're live streaming, which is on Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/intouchwithios, where you can watch the current and past live streams, as well as listen to all the past shows. Visit In Touch with iOS magazine on Flipboard, where many of the topics we discuss are flipped into that magazine. The link is in our show notes. You can subscribe to the show in your favorite podcatcher, including Pocket Casts, Overcast, Apple Podcasts, and just many others. But better yet, go to our website at intouchwithios.com, where all the links and all the ways to listen to us is on our website. I am Dave Ginsburg. You could find me on Mastodon at DaveG65 at mastodon.cloud. Bob Fairbairn, thank you so much for being here.
It was fun.
Way too
it was
long.
really good. It's a little
so
bigger
glad
group.
You're here.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah, absolutely. We rile it up here every week. So thanks for being here. Where can people find you?
Pretty much only on Mastodon these days. So it's BobFA at techhub.social.
Okay, great. Then thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Ben Roethig, thank you also for being here. We really appreciate it. I think you have a new blog post, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I do.
Where can people find you?
Well, Dave, you can find me on social media at Ben Roethig on your social media of choice. You can find that very expansive blog post on the 17.4 changes at roethig.tech. I still have to work on getting it ported over to a new WordPress server, but
I'm waiting for you.
I know. I keep getting bogged up in other things.
I hear you.
Yep. On Tuesday nights, you can find me on Mac Voices Live with Mr. Chuck Joyner. And on Thursday and Friday afternoons/mornings, depending on where you are, you can find me the Big and Mac shows from the British Tech Network.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it. Last but certainly not least, Jeff Gamet, thank you as always for being here. Where can people find you?
Well, Dave, thanks as always for letting me hang out with you, because it's great to get to hang out with cool people all the time. All right, so on socials, I'm Jay Gamet, and I'm active on Mastodon, Instagram, and Threads. Then for shows, Tuesdays on Chuck Joyner's Mac Voices Live, here with you on Thursdays on In Touch with iOS, then on the British Tech Network, Thursdays on The Big Show, Fridays on The Mac Show, and Brian Chaffin and I do the Context Machine. Brian does have a Vision Pro on the way, so this week's episode is going to be late because he needs to have time to play with it. And then second, it's going to take time for me to pull him away from it long enough to record.
Yes,
you're going to have to go there and pull it off his head.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't have as much hair anymore, so it might be easier now.
Okay, that's true. Yeah, he got his haircut and he's looking pretty sharp.
Yes. Well, thanks as always for being here. And thank you for listening. As I mentioned, be sure you tune in next week. We're going to have Dylan Stewart. If all things work out, there's always that possibility, but it looks like everything is in plan to give us his firsthand discussion about the Vision Pro. But until then, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show. We enjoyed doing it, and we'll talk again soon.